Hey guys, Paul here at Rapids. We're with Ben Weiser. He's our resident beer expert. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Jockey boxes, the difference between a cold plate cooler and a coil cooler. But before we get into the details, Ben, where are these things used?
You're going to use these in any kind of, basically any gathering of people that it's inconvenient to have an actual refrigerated kegerator setup or beer dispenser. Okay. So, you know, beer tastings, if you're going camping, anything outdoors, places where electricity is just not readily available.
Okay, so like festivals, music venues, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, let's take a look inside the lids here and see the differences.
Sure. So what we're looking at here is a standard two-product cold plate cooler. And as you can see, pretty simple interior setup. You've got the cold plate down there at the bottom, which is just a big, nigh-on, indestructible block of aluminum. These units work best with ice only in them. And you're going to want to keep the drain on the side over here, keep that open at all times so that the water can drain out. You want to maintain constant ice contact with the cold plate. Okay. So that you get the best amount of cooling with that, which means over time you're going to have to open up the box and kind of break down. It's going to the ice is going to kind of bridge over the top of this, and so you're going to have to go in periodically and just kind of break that down so it stays in contact with the plate.
Okay. Can you flip this thing around? Let's talk a little bit about what these are coming into the back. What are we looking at here?
So these are just a standard shank connection. Okay. Just the standard beer hex nut. It's the same kind of hex nut that screws into the top of your keg coupler. Okay. And so that's going to be where the line coming off the top of your keg comes into the back of the box. Okay, and so from there it's going to go into the cold plate cooler. I take it then that cold plate has two sections in it then, one for each beer product? Yes, there's going to be two different lines. You can kind of see in there that there's barbs, and they're labeled 1 and 2 in and out for easy connections. If you ever have to change these connections for any reason, they're pretty easily labeled in there. Now each one of these lines has about 15 to 17 feet of tubing actually inside that cold plate, which is going to hold somewhere in the vicinity of about 8 ounces of beer staying cold at any time, which is why this particular box is great for small venues like, you know, a camping party or you know, a small family event or something along those lines, just mainly because you've only got about, you know, 8 ounces or so of beer in the plate at any time that's getting cold. Okay. So that's where the advantage coil cooler comes into play. Exactly. Okay. For larger events, larger venues, that's where you want to step up to the coil cooler. Got it. Let's take a look at one of those quick. Sure.
Okay, moving on. We swapped out that cold plate cooler. This is a coil cooler then, so yeah, let's take a look inside this piece.
Okay, so what we've got in here, this is a two-product coil cooler with a 50-foot coil for each line. This is going to be one of probably the smallest size coil you're going to find in coil boxes. Coils can range anywhere from 50 feet up to about 120 feet. So the longer the coil, then the more beer you're going to have essentially on standby that's at proper serving temperature? Yeah, the beer that's actually getting, you know, actively cooling in the lines. Okay. So for the larger events, if you're, you know, tailgating or if you're actively serving a lot of beer quickly at a big event, then you're going to want bigger coils because you're going to have more beer cold at any given point in time.
Roger that. Has it ever come into play where somebody would hook even two boxes together? Like one input, go through a coil, and then kick out instead of a faucet into another box?
I have seen that, but with the coil coolers, it's not usually necessary unless you're in like some wickedly hot ambient environment. I mean, it would have to be like...
So the box itself is sufficient for most applications?
Yeah, usually.
Oh, okay, cool.
Worst case scenario, if the box doesn't seem to be quite cutting it, if you also put the keg on ice, that'll help with the efficiency.
Right, and then add those jackets too, like a vinyl or canvas jacket.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. Also, if whenever possible, keeping the kegs out of the sun is definitely a bonus.
Okay. Okay. So just like the cold plate cooler, our product's coming from the keg coupler up through the beer line into the back of the shank into these coils, right?
Yep. Same thing on the back.
And then spin around the coils, get cold. A traditional ice bath the same as the cold plate cooler, or you do it a little
Actually,
different?
with these, you're going to do something completely different with the coil cooler.
Okay.
The cold plate, you wanted to completely pack the cooler full of ice and let all the water drain out. With these particular units, what you want to do is, the first thing you do, as soon as you hook up the keg, before you put anything in the coolers, you want to run some beer through it. And that seems a little strange at first, but the reason for that is if you start packing ice into these, any moisture that's inside of them could instantly freeze up with that ice directly touching the coils. And so you want to get some beer in there first, because obviously alcohol freezes at a lot lower temperature.
Right.
Then the next thing you want to do is put in just enough water to cover the coils, wherever the top end of the stack of the coil is, put enough water in there to do that, and then put your ice in. And the reason why you want to put the water in first is because when you start dumping ice into these things, I mean, yeah, they're stainless steel, but they're not indestructible.
Okay.
If you drop the ice from too high up, one little sharp corner could hit this tube, put a little pinprick in there, and now you've got to replace that whole coil.
Really?
Yeah. So you want to get some water in there first to kind of cushion that ice falling in there, and then, fill it up as much as you can with the ice to keep things nice and cold.
It's a great tip, Ben. You can see why you're the beer expert.
I try.
Okay, so we're cold and the cool, and the faucets, these are just a standard faucet, right?
Yep. Standard faucet on the front, nothing spectacular. For a service like this, even though you see a lot of people that are interested in like the Perlick forward sealing and stuff, these are in use so little, you're probably not necessarily going to want to spend the extra money on those.
Okay.
You're going to use these, most people, I guess, are going to use these a few times a year and then store it away for the winter.
Got it.
So a standard faucet on these is going to work just fine.
So, and that's just a regular shank too, obviously. So if you had to serve a stout product, you could switch it out for a stout faucet. No.
Oh yeah, yeah. All the connections on the front of these are universal.
Okay.
So a standard faucet wrench will take that off. You can put a stout faucet on there. Good to go.
Okay. These handles, they just come right off. So if you had a specialized branded tap handle, no worries there, popping it on. What else for accessories or things might we consider to get when we're moving into a jockey box?
Well, you definitely want to think about cleaning. On the back of these, once again, you've got the standard shank fitting. We've actually got a pre-assembled hose that has one end with the beer nut on it that screws right onto the back of the shank, and then the other end of the hose has a standard garden hose attachment, and so that way you can flush out any remaining beer that's in the box immediately after you're done with service.
Right.
You don't want to let this sit with beer or water in it for a long period of time, because eventually it'll start to mold.
Got it.
And once these coils fill up with mold, it's really just a bear to get them clean.
Got it. What about those cleaning kits with like the hand pump? Do you see those being used? To
Definitely. You could use those for cleaning. And once again, a lot of those are going to attach to the front side. You're going to take the faucet off, attach your line from your cleaning pump, and then pump the cleaning solution backwards through the system.
Okay.
That's perfectly acceptable. That's totally cool. Those work great.
Now, I've seen also some apparatus. It actually looks like just a bent piece of metal with a circle cut out of it that people are putting just cups in as a drip catcher underneath these.
Yeah, we've got those as well. I want to say they're not very expensive, just a few dollars, and it's really just two 90-degree bends and then a hole to just drop like a red Solo cup into and use it for a drip tray if you're like in an event center with an indoor venue and you don't want to be dripping all over the floor. Right.
And I can see that being advantageous even at like a music festival, so it doesn't get too sloppy where you're serving.
Exactly, so you're not standing in a mud pit all day.
Right. Cool. Well, geez, Ben, thank you so much for walking us through these jockey boxes. We learned a lot today, and I guess if anybody else out there has any further questions they'd like to ask, I'd encourage you guys to just, give us a buzz here at the shop or jump on our online chat.
Sounds great. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.